Greeting class. In this tutorial, I would like to demonstrate how we can go about creating one-dimensional array. And before we start, I would like to go over the definition of an array. Basically, an array is a variable that holds multiple values of the same type. So instead of creating 5 variables, for instance, you can have an array where you just put that 5 values within that one variable. So think of an array as a mailbox. You can have multi-dimensional array, or you can have single dimensional array. So with that said, I would like to go ahead jump into demonstrating how we can go ahead and create one dimensional array. The first thing we have to do is you launch your Microsoft Visual Studio. Then let's create a project. We're going to go under create a new project. And we're going to use Win32 console application. Okay. Next. And we're going to be using empty project. So we have our source file folder. In this case, we're going to click on that. And then we're going to add a new item. And then we're going to C++ file. We're going to call it arrays as well. Okay, so now we have our editor. So the first thing we have to do, as usual, let's go ahead and include our library, standard library, IO stream. In this case, we're going to be using standard output, cout, it's called, using standard end of line. So for this purpose, we only need these two standard outputs and standard end of the line. Next, we're gonna create our main function. Open bracket. We're gonna close our bracket, and then we're gonna put a comma there. We're gonna say end of the main function. Okay. It's always good to start with the bracket and then put a comma at the end of the bracket so you can see where you're actually the bracket ends and what the purpose of that bracket is. Right, in this case, what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and define a one-dimensional array of type int. So to do that, we're going to say int my number, we're going to call it, and we're going to give it 200 memory space. In this case, we're creating 200 cells in a memory that will hold values. Next, in order to populate an array, in this case it's a one-dimensional array with 200 cells, we need to use the for loop statement to populate each cell. So in this case, we're going to create our for loop statement for int. We're going to call it cell. We're going to start at 0. Arrays always starts at 0. Cell and greater less than 200. Cell plus plus. We increment it by 1. We're going to start our bracket, always bracket. Then we're going to put our comma at the end. This is end of the for loop statement. Close our bracket. All right. So inside this loop, this loop basically go like 199 times, and then During that process iteration, we're going to populate the cell, my number array with values. So in this case, I'm going to say my number, and here we're going to put the cell because cell will be changing. So we initialize it at 200. We're going to start at 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on and so forth. And we're going to populate it with the cell times 200. So in this case, we're going to go at cell 0 in memory, and we're going to place the value of 0 times 200. Then we're going to go at cell value 1, memory address, and memory location, and we're going to be entering cell which is going to be 1 times 200, and so on and so forth. Okay. Next, once this is populated, then next we also need to print the result. So here we're going to create another for loop statement. We're going to say for. Actually, as a matter of fact, we can make our work easier. We're just going to cut this guy, copy, and we're going to bring it here. We're going to paste it. But here, we're going to be using this cout statement to print the result. So we're going to erase this one. We're going to say cout. We're going to say array. And we're going to put some statement there so it makes sense to us when we print the result. Then we're going to put the cell that's going to print the value of this array, the for loop, and has the following value equal sign, and the actual array value. Okay, here we go. Expand this way. We'll bring this down here. So let's kind of recap. So basically the first thing we had to do, we had to declare our IO stream library and then cout end of the line. And main function, we declare our array of type integer with 200 cell. And then we had to use for loop statement to iterate through each cell number of the array and populate it with values. Again, think about the mail slots in an apartment complex where you're going to go to each mail slot, you put a letter or package or something. So that's kind of what basically we are doing. In this case, everything has to be of type integer. You cannot mix or mingle int with double. So you have to remember that if you declare it int, the cell, the array, everything should be integer. You cannot put character inside or double type of value or string. So in this case, we are populating each cell. Next, we are going and printing the content of the array, which we go through that iteration and print it on the screen. So now let's go and run this one. Control 5. Okay, so here we go. Our program ran. So let's go. Cell 0 has value of 0, which makes sense. 0 times 200 is 0. Cell 1, it's 1 times 200 is 2. Cell 2, 2 times 204, so on and so forth. So these are the value of the array. So it goes all the way to 199 and stop. So, okay, so this basically shows you how, what an array is and how we can use it in C++, and to create one and populate the value with the value and the print result on screen. Then you can use this as a tool to do other programming assignment For instance, you want to store the phone number of all the employees of a company, then you can use an array, for instance, to do that, and or when you're trying to create a game. But this is kind of basic demonstration of one-dimensional array. And I hope you found it useful for all your programming assignments. Thank you for watching.